You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of the Gen 15 event from Dallas. And I'm joined now by Jeff Schmitz, who's EVP at Spirent. Jeff, thanks for talking with TelecomTV. Given the vast numbers of connected devices we're going to be seeing out there on the market, how big a problem is the Internet of Things for carriers?
I think it's going to be a big problem. Let's start with the scale of the problem. So if you look at the number of shared devices by 2020, some estimates are in the 20 billion devices, maybe even more. So this is a staggering number, and particularly if you look at the kinds of devices you see today, like cell phones, they're more in line with the population, in the $6 billion range. So it's a huge problem. Secondly, if you look at how carriers often put devices like this on the network, they spend a lot of time and a lot of money doing testing on them. And Spirent, we're a testing firm. Some estimates we've heard from carriers is they spend $2 million to get a single device on the network. That's just not going to scale. You can't spend weeks and months getting those on the network. And what the carriers are telling us is they want to be very accepting of devices. They want devices to come onto their network. They need to make it easier, and that's a big challenge.
But given that a lot of these devices are very, very small, very low cost, very simple, can we create this affordable certification scheme?
I think we're going to have to look at the problem really fundamentally differently. I think the idea of big, complex testing with a giant test suite is going to be a problem. And we're going to have to look at something that looks a little bit more like self-certification. A small amount of testing, make sure these devices are safe and don't cause any harm to the network. And I think we're going to have to monitor them much more closely on the back end. And I think the tools and the analytic tools and the big data tools are now becoming available to really monitor that. And we'll have more of a DevOps model, a much more aggressive, fast-moving pace is going to be required. And the tools are now starting to come to market that will do that.
So we need to rethink, we need to have some model. We can't just say, no, forget it, we don't need anything.
Can't just chuck everything away. You can't just let these devices come on the network because, again, some of them can cause harm, get chatty, and cause problems. So.
Does the choice of connectivity platform, cellular or low power WAN, does that affect security?
So I think from a security perspective, we're going to have the same kind of challenges no matter what. So there'll be a host of different connectivity methods, whether they're licensed, unlicensed, and some newer technologies will allow for lower power, low bandwidth, and of course, as we look at 5G, it'll support that, as well as very high bandwidth applications. I think security will be a problem no matter what. And again, when I look at security, I look at the secure nature of, is the connection secure, but the other piece is it private, and is there privacy? And both will be concerns, I think, irrespective of the connectivity.
Because you say it's the data itself as well. How do we ensure that the data is secure?
Yes, indeed. And again, so I think there's privacy concerns about who can get access to the data, even if it's secure, and the second piece is, can people hack in and create an insecure event?
Alongside the certification, there's also talk about more standards and whether we need to standardize these devices and standardize our approaches. But do we really need more standards?
Well, I think, the famous statement about standards is, the good thing about standards, there's so many to choose from, continues. And as the chairman of the Open Cloud Connect, I know well about standards. But here's a case where standards are important. So I think we're seeing a number of standards start to evolve. The IETF and the one M2M is one of them. But it's also a challenge for the developers. So one of the people we look at in terms of our customers are the developers. So we're having developers start to look at different applications, and they may be experts in healthcare or in agriculture. They're probably not experts in connectivity or some of these standards, and that's one of the areas Spirent's looking to help, is how do we put the right tools in those developers' hands so they don't have to worry about the complexity of the standards. That's relatively easy. And they don't have to worry about the complexities of the connectivity, and they can concentrate on building their applications.
You mentioned there your involvement with Open Cloud Connect. Brings me on to the subject of open. We're seeing open solutions more and more in the telecoms industry, but what does open actually mean?
Well, I think we've long been a supporter of open standards, but there's also times where you need to modify some of those tools and some of that openness so that you can create a better environment, either a more secure environment or add specific needs that a customer might have. So we build a number of tools that are based on open technology and sometimes modify them for customers. So I think openness will continue to be an important part of the Internet of Things. I think for it to scale, that'll be critical, but I think there'll be places where there need to be some extensions.
And in summary, what's Spirent's involvement in the IoT market?
So Spirent, and particularly my businesses, we've focused for a long time on connected smartphones, making sure that smartphones could come onto the network, they worked properly, they had the proper user experience, great voice quality, data quality, and we could help our carrier and our OEM customers figure out what those parameters were. And we're starting to transition because the connected device is moving from smartphones to IoT, and it's quite a bit different environment. And we're bringing really 3 solutions we're working on now and working with our customers to evolve. One of them is, as we mentioned before, the developer community. How do these developers in different verticals find ways to more quickly get those applications up and running without worrying about all the standards and worrying about all the connectivity issues? So that's one area. The second area is connectivity. So about a year and a half ago, we bought a company out of Denmark that concentrates on how do cell phones, as they roam around the world, quickly connect to the data network and get configured properly. We're extending that into the IoT space, and we're helping manufacturers, so when they build these small devices, they can ship them anywhere on the planet, connect to any network, and they can connect easily and quickly without any configuration. Smartphones today often come with configurations specifically for network, particularly in the United States. And the last piece is analytics. So we've also added analytics to our portfolio, and I think that'll be an important aspect going forward because, again, we won't be able to test everything up front like we did in the smartphone era. We'll have to have analytics around the data and see how they're performing and quickly respond at the back end. So those are the 3 areas we're specifically looking at Spirent.
Fascinating. Jeff, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, guys.